Okay, and we're back. So I'm purposefully dividing up this week's PowerPoint lecture into like four smaller, hopefully more digestible videos because I don't know about you guys, but I wouldn't want to listen to my voice for an hour. So hopefully this is going to give you a chance to work your way through this week's information in some more digestible chunks where you don't have to listen to me drone on for too terribly long at each time. All right, so we're going to move on now by thinking about schedules, routines, and then even transitions. So, schedules should be designed to promote child engagement. We've talked about earlier when children are engaged with a material, a peer or an adult, they're less likely to be engaged in a challenging behavior. So, some of the things that will keep them more engaged are balancing the activities. So there's a mix of small group and then large group activities, and a mix of teacher directed and child directed activities, and not any too much of one thing. Uh, Teaching children the routine is important as well. We can't expect children to follow the routine if we don't teach it to them or show them what the routine is first. Schedules and routines provide some security and a sense of what comes next for children. Children are able to participate or to anticipate what's going to happen. And then feel so much more secure when they have that routine in place. This is especially important for children whose primary language differs from that that's spoken in your classroom. All right, little issue changing the slide there, sorry. Okay, so let's talk about some different ways that you can teach children to follow routines or schedules. So, first, teach it during circle time, right? Using some visual cues that all children understand. Reinforce children as they go through the schedule of the day. Provide individual instruction to children who might need some more assistance, maybe using individualized picture cues for those children. Be consistent with your schedule and your routines. Things don't have to happen at the same time every day, but they should happen in that same sequential order in order to maintain consistency from day to day. Children are going to be more likely to learn to follow a schedule if you are really consistent in the implementation of your schedule. This is a good one. Post your schedule visually and refer to it frequently throughout the day so that children learn what's going to happen next. And so, things happen. So when changes are necessary, prepare your children for those changes in advance. You can prepare children by making announcements, maybe during your morning meeting or circle time, using visual prompts on a posted schedule to indicate that a change is going to happen. You might even put like a symbol of a stop sign on top of a normal activity that's not going to happen as planned as a visual cue for children. And then reminding children about these changes to the routine as often as possible throughout the morning or the day before that activity was scheduled to happen. And for some children with disabilities, autism being one of them, changes in the schedule routine can actually be a trigger for challenging behaviors. So do whatever you can to maintain consistency there. Okay, so here um, we're going to take a look at a couple examples of visual schedules. And later in your week, one of your assignments is going to be to create and share with the rest of us your take on a visual schedule for your classroom. So let's look at just a few. Here's one example with pictures demonstrating an activity that we can point to throughout the day or that shows a progression from one activity to the next. Here's a sample of an individual schedule. Love the Velcro where you just peel back um, each activity as we happen or as you want to talk about it. Here's a photograph visual schedule. And again, you see that everything is on Velcro, so it's movable and you can rearrange things. Though again, consistency of activities from day to day is pretty important. Here's a rainy day schedule. It looks like there are some raindrops placed over a car, and my guess is going to be that is outside time. So you're communicating in advance to children that we might not be going outside today because of the weather. And here's a morning meeting mini schedule. So first, this is communicating what's happening during our morning meeting first. We can see that we're all going to sing the morning song, and then we'll take attendance, and then we'll talk about the schedule of the day, and so on and so forth. And then, it's communicating what activity we're going to be going to next. And just a disclaimer, I really don't like the picture on the right-hand side that shows children at small desks. I think it's just a bad piece of clip art. And hopefully, whoever's classroom this is, their intention is not that children are going to be at small group time behind desks. Hopefully they are all together, maybe sitting on the ground. So visual schedules can also be used for families. So this slide shows us a visual schedule that might be used for the family to help their child with the routine of getting ready for school. So just something to think about as you're communicating with families and supporting them through routines and transitions as well. All right, another issue that's closely related to scheduling and routines is definitely transitions. Challenging behaviors very often occur during transitions, especially when all children are expected to do the same thing at the same time, and then invariably they end up waiting around with nothing to do. Uh, so we know from research that children often spend a pretty big portion of their preschool day making these transitions or changes between activities. So as teachers, one of our goals really should be to minimize the number of transitions that children are having to make during the day, to plan out transitions so that there's a minimal amount of time spent in the transition, and that children remain highly engaged during that transition. We are giving children a warning before a transition occurs, and we're minimizing those transitions during which every child has to do the exact same thing at the same time. Here's a good example. Why does every child have to go to the bathroom at the same time? Oh my gosh. We're just asking for challenging behaviors when that happens because there's only so many sinks and so many toilets and all these kids in this really small space. Don't do that. There's a better way. All right, also think about snack time. Could snack time be a part of center time? So instead of everybody having to transition together at the same time to snack, maybe it's just a natural center that children are rotating and moving to as they're enjoying their free time. So structure your transition so that children have something to do while they're waiting. You might think about finger plays or songs, guessing games. There are a lot of options here. You want to provide some children with chores and give children helping roles during these transitions, especially the ones that seem to have the most difficult time with a transition. Maybe they're the ones that are handing out paper towels or holding the door or helping out a friend. And then teach children about the expectations for transitions. This instruction can occur during a group time, and it's something that you can reinforce throughout the day or throughout a transition. And individualize the instruction and cues that are provided to children. So some children will make a transition with minimal amount of support, no big deal, and others may need more. They might need a picture schedule and a verbal prompt and adult assistance or some other type of cue, and that's okay. We should be individualizing this support to help all children successfully navigate the transitions that we ask them to do. Okay, so because transitions might be a time where children are more likely to have challenging behaviors, teachers should really consider what individualized strategies can be used during the transition to prevent this likelihood of challenges with children who are most likely to have challenging behaviors. So here we provided some of the important reasons for using explicit and also individualized transitions. And as we know, children with physical disabilities and mobility needs might present some unique challenges during transitions. Think for a moment and pause the slide if you, or pause this video if you want a little more time to think. How do you make sure everyone gets where they need to go? And how do you keep everyone engaged during that whole time? And think about that because I think it's going to come back to you during a discussion question in class this week. And we will revisit this topic some more. Okay, the next few slides that I'm going to show are several different types of transition strategies. So it's important to provide visual cues and reminders for young children, especially young children with special needs and children with where English may be their second language. So visual cues and reminders are useful to help children learn the routines of the classroom, also to help them learn the expectation or the classroom rules. They're great to help children anticipate making transitions between activities and even to assist children in knowing what to do during the transitions. Now, as adults in the classroom, we use visual cues all the time. So, for example, we look at our watches, we look at the clock on the wall. We even use it to see look when a boring meeting is going to end or when it's time to go to lunch. Um, we use it when we go into a new building. We look at signs to find places we need to go, like an elevator, the restroom, or the location of a conference room somewhere. And we even use it when we go to vote. We look at the visual directions provided to see how to use a voting machine. Like, what could be more complicated than voting machine? And we also pray that that's going to work. So here are a few examples of transitions with choices. And again, teachers, stock up on that Velcro because it sure does come in handy. Here's an example of some circle time supports where children are asked to sit by their picture. And then I think in this class, one of the things that they do is they put their feet on the red line around the rug as another strategy. And also having enough space in between children so they can get the wiggles out. Here is a photo of preparing for circle time where the teacher has blocked out the nearby centers that could provide a distraction for children during their morning meeting or their circle time. So in this image, she has covered the block shelves with some fabric. Here's an example of a way one teacher provides transitions to centers. Children have their name on a popsicle stick, and then they're able to select which center they're going to go to by dropping the popsicle in the center that matches their interests. Here's an example of an individual schedule for a child where they can plan out, first I'm going to do this, and then this is where I'm going to go. And turn taking at centers is another important thing that we can use visual cues and strategies for. Here are some examples of what teachers do when children want to play at a center, but that center is full. So we have the little Velcro chart where we can show which child is using the center now, and then this is the order of children that are going to use the center next. We've got sign-up sheets. We have a clock with the minutes designated by that red line that shows how long something will happen. We even have just as simple as a little portable timer available where we can set the timer for however many minutes a child has left in a particular center before they need to transition out. Timers are actually a great support for children in centers. Here's another way to transition with a visual and a timer. We see here that it's Brendan's turn, and it looks like he has 6 minutes left at the computer station. So if you don't have one yet, here's some great examples of timers that you can get to help prepare children for transitions by providing them warnings and some cues when a transition is imminent. We can even pair visual cues with auditory cues, like ringing a bell. This really cool Velcro glove here is one example of that. So we can ring the bell at 5 minutes and show our glove, and then remove a number for every minute that passes as we continue to ring the bell to remind children that we are counting down toward maybe cleanup time or another transition that's going to happen. So we're going to pause now. I'm going to give you a break from me talking, and you can join me in the next video that's going to be about planning activities and promoting engagement in large and small group times.